Next, I have the great pleasure of introducing our keynote speaker. I think probably everyone on this call and in this meeting knows her, so that should make this really easy. Jennifer Giovannetti is the president of the Claude Worthington Benedum Foundation, a position that she's held since October of 2018, but we all know her from her great work here in Elkins. In fact, Jen and I go back to her first gig here. I was working for Mountain Partners in Community Development when we wrote a grant to Benedum to enable the hiring of a project manager for the Elkins Depot restoration, for which the RCHA had raised funds but needed a little extra to have the project carried forward. It was another great collaboration, and it brought us Jen. So that was back in 1999. She spent a couple years managing that restoration and then moved into the executive director position for the Development Authority, where she continued the redevelopment of the rail yard, which was a model at the time for brownfield redevelopment and has become such an economic engine in our community here, and a community gathering spot as well. Jennifer left Elkins for the Richmond Federal Reserve about 10 years ago, but she stayed in close touch starting in 2012 and leading the West Virginia Loan Fund Collaborative. Now, this is work that is close to Jen's heart. She was helping the Fed as a policy influencer and research engine better understand the impact of small business lending in underserved communities. It definitely put Elkins on the map, as we saw last week when the chairman of the Richmond Fed came to Elkins on a listening tour. I have to just mention two other more recent connections that Jen has to Elkins. One is that she is now serving on the Board of Trustees of Davis and Elkins College, so shout out to Chris Wood, good job. And the other one is just a funny coincidence. Our Jennifer Griggs, Jennifer G, purchased Jennifer Giovannetti's house when she moved here to take a job with the Housing Authority from California last year. Jennifer G, it's all, everything comes full circle. So I would be remiss if I didn't take a little side trip over to talk a little bit about the Benedum Foundation, because they have played such an outsized role, of course, in our state, in our community, and with the Housing Authority, always backing innovation, new solutions, and anything that really builds community capacity. According to Brooke Rogers, who preceded Josie, ran RCHA from 1986 to 1989, Benedum's first grant to the Housing Authority was to fund a year-long training for her, which resulted in the launching of the homeownership program. So isn't that fitting? Benedum has always been there to support our innovations and new programs, from introducing entrepreneurship training to our youth build program, to helping us expand the wellness collaboratives, healthy home program, to our most current work, supporting our partners, Catholic Charities and Youth Health Service, and helping people that are being hurt by the pandemic. So it's great and fitting that Jen can be with us today as the head of the Benedum Foundation. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome one of our own, the president of the Claude Worthington Benedum Foundation, Jen Giovannetti. Hey, Jen.
Hey, thank you so much, Karen. I'm just so honored to be with everyone today, and I see so many faces on this Zoom that bring me so much joy in seeing so many friends and colleagues that I feel were important work. So it's great to see you all. I really, though, want to start off by just congratulating the staff, the board, and the community on 40 years of the Randolph County Housing Authority providing meaningful services to Randolph County and beyond. The role of housing, and as Karen mentioned in her remarks, plays such an incredible role in the lives of young families, seniors, people with disabilities, and first-time homeowners. And few organizations can do what you do. Housing is, in particular of many things in people's lives, housing is critical to stability and to wealth generation. But needs always have a way of growing. And it is to the credit of all of you here and those who have gone before you that the Randolph County Housing Authority has never rested on its laurels, but rather resolved to do more, providing homes, but also essential services, technical assistance, and financing to a whole host of people. you really have nurtured a culture that is entrepreneurial and willing to, what I would say is, nibble around the edges of your core work to do more year after year. The entrepreneurial spirit that I just highlighted would have pleased our founder, Michael Benedum. Our benefactor, Michael Benedum, was a Bridgeport native who actually lucked into a career in the oil and gas business after offering up his seat on a train to John Worthington. Unbeknownst to him, John was an executive with Standard Oil Company. And John Worthington immediately offered Michael Benedum a job on the spot based on that gentlemanly character move. This, of course, changed his life. And over time, Michael Benedum became a successful businessman and one of the 100 wealthiest men of his time. But Michael is best remembered for his courage to explore and take risks and his caring nature, as was exhibited that day on the train. And I share this story with you to illustrate how important the character of West Virginians is, and to share that the Benedum Foundation today still prioritizes character and relationships. We look for organizations that are doing good and embody that little bit extra. In the case of the Randolph County Housing Authority, with its strong mission and proven reliability, the extra has been your ability to see new opportunities to keep helping people in new ways. And we love this because Michael Benedum is famous in his last will for writing the words, "We know not where a seed may sprout." And the Randolph County Housing Authority has turned out to be a very beautiful seed in our portfolio too. At the Benedum Foundation, we look to grantees to get their perspective on what might work to solve problems. We really aim to quietly support local ideas, local initiative, because we trust you and really we need your input on how to solve problems. I started thinking more about our grantees and their unique roles. And I can talk about this in 3 classifications. Some of our grantees are core organizations providing necessary services that few or no other organizations really provide. Some of our grantees are leading programs that we have what we call, they have like a nascent quality to them, meaning they are likely to grow, they will expand, they will develop ways yet to be seen. And finally, some of our grantees are what we see as catalytic. They start programs that are new, sometimes risky, and often they're envisioned to create something that does not or has not existed before. I value the core, the nascent, and the catalytic grantees equally. They all have a unique value to us. But once in a while, we have a grantee that is all of the above. They serve a core function, they begin nascent work by growing programs to add to their core functions, and sometimes they even add to their model. They add a catalytic idea, something that is not without risk, but could change how they approach their work and how they serve their community. The Randolph County Housing Authority is one of those rare grantees that has achieved all 3 classifications over the years. Your core work in housing preservation, housing development, construction, home ownership and rental assistance, and even the rapid rehousing and point-in-time counts of vulnerable homeless populations is core, fundamental, necessary work that someone has to do. But you've also launched into this nascent category, programs like Youth Build that have helped dozens of kids gain skills while growing the model to keep adding more. Or, for example, the nascent work of taking on downtown redevelopment. It takes brave, patient people to own the Del Monte, take on the First Ward School, investments you've made in Tucker County and beyond. This is the nascent work that you know and we know could take a decade, and you just patiently motor on. And lastly, the catalytic part. You have brought to the community and to the state catalytic thinking like standing up a CDFI via Woodlands Community Lenders. This is opening up capital for small businesses that cannot get 100% of their loans from traditional lenders. And those small businesses won't get the same technical support usually. But for Woodlands, would new capital flow and new partnerships emerge with local banks? Another example of catalytic work to me is how you've been thinking holistically about seniors and wellness through both housing and the Healthy Home program. Your core work is hard work. Your nascent work has been patient work, and your catalytic work has been bold work. I hope this overview puts into perspective the important ways your work is appreciated by a foundation like ours. Now I want to just shift and pull back a little bit and talk more broadly for a moment. I think a lot about rural communities. Working in rural, I would submit, is just much more difficult than in most urban and suburban centers, but it is infinitely more rewarding. Rural strategies, rural economics, rural data, and rural policies are near and dear to me. Many of you know, as Karen mentioned, I lived in Randolph County for 12 years. In fact, my husband proposed to me on a mountaintop in Randolph County. We had all three of our kids here. And as I often tell, we got the best dog we ever owned in West Virginia. So while special to me personally, I won't deny that rural communities struggle with so many things. Rural communities can be more challenging for our youth. It can be harder on our seniors. Job opportunities are more anemic in rural states. They often pay less. Healthcare can be more difficult to access, especially as it relates to addiction and mental health. Even raising capital is harder in rural places because our small community projects are sometimes too small, and they're viewed by outsiders as higher risk, more difficult to finance, should come at a discount. But what we have going for us that can't be underestimated is the enduring spirit and better understanding of community. We know the effort it takes. We know the deep collaborations that are required, the diverse relationships, and the creative thinking that is needed to address local problems with local solutions. Rural institutions really set the tone and direction for much of this spirit of collaboration and innovation. Rural institutions like the Randolph County Housing Authority, the Tucker County Foundation, Davis and Elkins College, Woodlands, legions of nonprofits. Just to name a few, like these all are anchors in the community and very important players. They bring leadership that is local and dedicated to local. They fight to bring resources to undersourced communities. And this is in a competitive world where they are up against much larger organizations. They also bring new ideas because they care about helping others and they have hope for an always brighter future. It's a future that they are part of in these communities. Institutions like the Randolph County Housing Authority leverage more than money. They leverage people to serve, people to lead, people to volunteer. And this is really essential because you can't get much done at all by yourself in a rural area. It does take working together. And that is the work that has been described in the video, the work that builds character in a virtuous cycle. So in closing, I would just like to tie all of this back to what we are living through right now. As we live through the COVID-19 pandemic, we are getting a glimpse into what people want to flee to when they are seeking a safer and higher quality of life. It is, in many ways, what we already have in rural West Virginia. It's green space, it's friendly neighbors, it's sense of place, and it's the ability to work from home and then be able to be outside in a quality way. I will end by saying I'm as optimistic as ever that the next decade will present its share of challenges, but that the people and beauty of places like West Virginia will attract a new set of residents and businesses. People who value the environment, family, community, and helping one's fellow man. COVID-19 has certainly elevated some of the most basic inequities facing America. Education disparities, health access disparities, broadband disparities, much as we already knew in West Virginia, which is why I think this moment in time will create a new paradigm of attention and resources that will be paid to things like broadband access for all. So I'm looking forward to the next hour to celebrate the work and history of the Randolph County Housing Authority. I applaud you for your work, and I applaud you for your spirit, and I applaud you for all of the partnerships that you have nurtured to do the important work you're doing. The Housing Authority really has accomplished so much in its first 40 years, and as the world changes, I have every confidence that the Randolph County Housing Authority will continue to serve the region in core, nascent, and catalytic ways. Thank you.